Welcome aboard the Chicago Fireboat Tour. Our knowledgeable guide, Cliff, will lead us on a special adventure as we explore Chicago from the deck of a fireboat. Join us for a journey packed with fascinating stories and breathtaking views. Accompanying us is our little explorer, 4-year-old Bennett. With his boundless energy and curiosity, Bennett adds a touch of wonder and excitement as we navigate through Chicago's rich history and stunning architecture. We'll uncover the secrets of the city's waterways, marvel at the blend of old and modern buildings, and learn about the heroic efforts of Chicago's firefighters. Whether you're a local looking to rediscover your city or a visitor eager to learn more, this tour promises a unique and unforgettable experience. So sit back, relax, and get ready to see Chicago like never before through the eyes of a child and the wisdom of our guide. Let's set sail and dive into the heart of Chicago.
Bennett's gonna ride about 41. Water cannon. See this catch? See this catch, Bennett, Betty? Betty grew up about 10 miles from this town, Norfolk, Massachusetts. That's near where Daddy grew up. See the Dalmatian on this catch, Bennett? The Dalmatian is the black and white dog. It's like the firefighter mascot, the Dalmatian. Firefighter helmet. Oxygen tank. Oh yeah.
It said Chicago Star.
Yep, Chicago Star. It's a newspaper.
Bottle of water, coffee, juice.
Can I get a cup of coffee? Just black?
Oh, I see both Bennett.
We ask you to put that small child. Your ears here in 3, 2, 1. And the show is starting. Thank you so much. Sit back and enjoy. Take it away, Cliff.
And thank you, Captain Ray. And again, good morning, everyone. Welcome aboard the Fred A. Bussey retired engine number 41. And on behalf of all of us here at Chicago Fireboat Tours, which is a veteran operating company, we thank you for being with us on this absolutely glorious, I'll say it again, glorious Saturday morning here in Chicago. My name is Cliff. I'm going to be your guide as we make our way through the highlights of Chicago's architecture and history. And that journey is going to take us immediately south here in Monroe Harbor. We're going to swing out past the breakwater into Lake Michigan and head north. From there, we're going to enter the Chicago River Locks and south onto the main branch of the Chicago River. Then we're going to head up the north branch for a ways, swing back again, and come back here to the dock.
Yeah, look at the boat moving. Look at boat moving, Bennett.
Enjoy the journey. Now, as we leave the dock, I'd like to give you a little background on the vessel you're traveling on right now, because the Fred A. Bussey really is a very historic ship. Her life began in Bay City, Michigan in 1936. She was completed in 1937 and was she could accommodate a crew of 8, and she was named after one of Chicago's mayors who held that position from 1907 to 1911. She was decommissioned in 1981. It was after 44 years of active service, and even left the state for a while. But she was brought back to Sweet Home Chicago by owner-operators Captains Ray Novak and Eric Tosh, and that was after 25 years service as a tour boat in Door County, Wisconsin. Now, a few things about the boat's configuration have changed a bit, which I do want to share with you. Number one, since we're no longer an active fireboat, her main water cannons have been removed. There were 2 up forward here and 2 back in the stern, one actually on a turret that could rise. So none of the big guns are on anymore. But, and also our cabin has been shortened a bit to make room for passengers in the stern. If you'd like to sit in the covered cabin, it is there available for you. But our cabin right now does serve as a mini museum and a photo gallery of the Bussey's active service. So if you feel like it, take a walk about the cabin, take a look at those pictures. Most of those black and white ones do date to the 30s and 40s. And there's one thing in our cabin that we have now that they did not have when it was an active fireboat, and that is, drum roll. Close. Okay, DJ? Okay, no, you got me. You have to deal with it. Okay, but at any rate, we have a bar. Yes, indeed, we have a bar. And we do have alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages as well as light snacks there. And I have to say, Magic Manny is, in my opinion, the best bartender in Chicago. We're really happy to have him here. So check him out if you like. Actually, we've got some great drinks back there. But as we head south Monroe Harbor, everybody, I do want to let you know that Chicago does have 10 such harbors in the urban area. And when the season is at peak, there's about 6,000 boats in all those 10 harbors. And these are going to be filling up here on the right. Within the next few weeks, they'll be loaded, 6,000 boats in those 10 harbors. Now, if I can bring your attention to our starboard side, that's the right side.
You see the waves?
Skyline.
You see the waves, Bennett?
Here. If you look back at about 3 o'clock, you're going to see some silver sculptures poking up through the trees. Right back over there.
Oh,
and
yes.
yeah, that is Millennium Park. I'm moving over so this fellow doesn't have to look through me because I'm not transparent. But there we go. Anyway, Millennium Park is one of over 600 parks we have here in Chicago. That's where the city gets its motto, Herbs and Horto, which means city and garden. But Millennium Park, when you see those sculptures, that's like a big marker there. If you're visiting from out of town and you have it on your bucket list to go see that world-famous sculpture that is classically known as Cloud Gate, but locally we call what? The Bean. The Bean is over in Millennium Park. Don't worry, it's not going anywhere. It's too big to move. It'll be there when you find it. But there's Millennium Park. Her newest sister park right next door to her is Maggie Daly Park. And right along the shoreline here, this long tree line here is our largest park in the urban area. That's Grant Park. And Grant Park serves as host for a number of special events in Chicago, like Blues Fest, Jazz Fest, Lollapalooza, Taste of Chicago. We even hosted our first NASCAR race last year, so a lot of stuff goes on over at Grant Park. And right behind Grant Park, that tallest building that's standing up right in the middle of all those trees, the big black one there with the white antenna on the top, that is the tallest building in Chicago. Now, it started out as Sears Tower. It was renamed Willis Tower. But some of us are stubborn. We keep the old names, so pick the one you like. So Sears Tower or Willis Tower. Tallest building in Chicago. It was completed in 1974, and for 25 years, it was the tallest building in the world. So, and by the way, there is an observation deck at the very top, right underneath those white antenna. You can take a very fast elevator up there, zoom, and when you get to that observation deck, it is the highest observation deck in the United States. There isn't anything taller. And they tell you, they get very excited to tell you when you get up there, hey, you know, you can see 4 states from up here. Wow, 4 states. But they fail to tell you one of those states is Illinois, which you're in right now. You can see it from here perfectly fine. But the other 3 are Wisconsin to the north, Indiana to the southeast, and Michigan, the state of Michigan, about 117 miles across the lake to the east. Now there is one thing, oh by the way, I do want to point out Buckingham Fountain. It's spouting right now. I'm going to give you details on that fountain on the way back, but that also has its own story. But take a look at that. It spouts 150 feet every hour on the hour. But there's one thing on our lakefront we don't have, and we're not unhappy about it, and that's we don't have any factories or industry. And that's because back in the late 19th century, 1890 or so, there's a fellow by the name of Montgomery Ward. You might know that name. He founded the world's first mail-order catalog and had 9 successful department stores. He was a Chicagoan, and he felt that the lakefront here should always be open and available to the public for education, for cultural events, for relaxation.
And what Mr. Ward does, he buys all the land on the lakefront from about a half a mile south of our museum campus, which is right off to our right here. We've got the Adler Planetarium, Shed Aquarium, and Field Museum. Again, that's part of our return trip there. But he bought all the land from a half a mile south of here to about 2.5 miles north, and he donated it back to the city with the strict stipulation it should never be built up with factories or industry, which is why we don't have it. So instead, we do have our museum campus. We've got 20 miles of running and biking trails, 26 golf courses, we have any golfers on board, and a free zoo just north of here, Lincoln Park Zoo. So we have Mr. Ward to thank for the fact that we do have this open waterfront. Now we have just turned north, everyone. We are on Lake Michigan. We are on our way to the Chicago River locks. And as we traverse north here, if you're from out of the area, let me give you a little background on the lake we're on right now, Lake Michigan. And Lake Michigan is one of 5 Great Lakes in the upper Midwest here. The other 4 are Lake Superior, Huron, Erie, and Ontario. And collectively, all 5 of those lakes make up the largest collection of surface freshwater in the world. Lake Michigan, by the way, is the only lake of the 5 that is completely within the contiguous 48 states here. The other 4 states do share a border with Canada. And by the way, we do caution, by the way, it'll be a little chilly, but you'll survive. Please attempt not to fall off the boat because it's not shallow here. Or don't jump off the boat, either one, they both work. But the average depth of Lake Michigan is about 300 feet. So it goes down a ways, and if we go out to the deepest portion of the lake, it's about 900 feet. So we're pretty sure if Nessie the Loch Ness Sea Monster is looking for a new place
Get
to
in,
live,
Bennett. Get in, Bennett. Don't fall
for
off, okay?
Now also, the lake is cleaner than it's been.
Bennett, look at that big
decades.
sailboat right
And I
there.
have to tell you how that happened. I'm sure you weren't expecting marine biology class here, 101. I'm pretty sure, I promise. But how did the lake get cleaner? Because there was a lot of sludge and sewage in this lake. Well, we have a little shellfish to thank for that, a little marine mollusk called the zebra mussel. And the zebra mussel is about the size of your thumbnail. It's striped black and white, so it looks like a zebra. That's where the name comes from. And these little guys showed up on ocean-going ships that came through the St. Lawrence Seaway back in the early 80s, late 70s. And these little guys, when they reached the lakes, they sort of checked out the water and said, you know, this is good water, we like it here. And a lot of them just jumped off. And they sunk to the bottom of all 5 of the different lakes, and they stayed. Now, don't forget, a zebra mussel is about the size of your thumbnail, right? A whole lot smaller than the lake. But a single female zebra mussel can produce 1 million eggs a year. So they're down there, they're getting busy, and by the time that we realized they were here, they had colonized all 5 Great Lakes. Now, how did they clean up the water? All right. The zebra mussel is a type of, they're called filter feeders, which means they siphon water into their squashy little bodies. They take out the nutrients that they need, squirt the water back out. But while they're feeding, they also take in contaminants in the water. They're kind of like little marine vacuum cleaners. So after a number of years, they literally cleaned up the water tremendously. And even though they have caused some issues with local aquatic life, and that is a fact, they're not going anywhere. They're staying. But if anything positive, we can thank them literally for cleaning up the water to the level that it is today. Now, if you have good eyes, everybody, you can see it through the mist, but off on the right side, right on the horizon, right about 3 o'clock, you can see what looks like a boat, but it's really a building. Right out there, just past the mist, got a slanted roof. That is one of our 3 freshwater intake pits, and I bring that up because Chicago, if you don't get your water at the store, we get our drinking and bathing and cooking water right here from Lake Michigan. And we've got 3 of those freshwater pigs out there. They're pretty big. And they operate pretty much like zebra mussels. They siphon water into those buildings. Then they pump that under the water here to 1 or 2 purification plants here in the city. And once that water is deemed safe to use, it is piped into Chicago and 118 other suburbs and municipalities around the city. So this is indeed where we get our fresh water. We couldn't live here without it. And ahead of us, you can see there is a promontory with buildings. And I'd like to talk about those since we're heading toward them on our way to the locks. Right ahead of us, that area there is known as Navy Pier. Now, it was built in 1916 by Chicago architect Daniel Burnham, but when he built it, he gave it a more mundane name. This is simply known as Municipal Pier Number 1. Not as catchy as Navy Pier, right? But he built it here He felt that Chicago needed to go on the map as a internationally respected destination and also as a major hub of commerce for the Great Lakes. Now, don't forget, Montgomery Ward bought the land on the lakefront so that they couldn't build factories or warehouses or heavy industry here, but there was nothing said about commercial businesses, so businesses grew about here, and it was very, very successful. But a year after the pier was built, again, Municipal Pier number 1, there was a bit of a military presence here during World War I. Now, it wasn't training, during that war, but the first war, there was something else. So you take a look at those 3 black buildings right dead ahead off the bow here. Right now, that's a very posh hotel called the Sable Hotel. Yeah, very nice to stay at right now, but back in 1917, it was a prison, and it was a prison for draft dodgers. So if you got a letter from Uncle Sam or the U.S. government requesting the honor of your presence in the military and you tried to Golden Run, if they caught you, you could spend some time out here at the Free Hotel. Well, after World War I, once again, this Municipal Pier number 1 becomes a commercial center. And in 1927, that's when it got its new name, Navy Pier. And it was named that in honor of the naval veterans who fought in our First World Conflict. Fast forward, I'm going to use World War II as the other bookmark here. World War II, there is a major military presence here. This time we've got training going on here. Over 10,000 military
Bennett, turn around.
trained
Look at
out here during the Second War. But specifically, Navy Pier
Bennett,
has
look at
now been
speedboat,
focused on training
turn
Navy
around.
and Marine pilots learning how to land and take off on aircraft carriers. So 2 boats were brought out here. One was called the Sable, the other one was the Wolverine. And they weren't aircraft carriers, they were steamships. But they were fitted with aircraft carrier-style decks so that these pilots could get valuable experience learning how to land and take off on a moving platform. And one of those pilots who trained here, he was a Navy pilot, served in the Pacific, came back after the war, he survived, and ended up becoming our 41st president. That was George Bush, so he trained out here as well. But after World War II ended, Navy Pier never got back to its old glory days because the United States began building the interstate highway system that so many of us use today. And it was discovered that sending your goods overland was less expensive than sending it by water. So bit by bit, the pier began to fail. But the city felt there was too much value here in this real estate to let it go. So they closed it around 1990 and reopened it 5 years later with a whole new
Bennett,
facelift.
look outside.
And right
Look
now, if
outside.
you visit Navy
Look at
Pier,
that
what you're going
building,
to find
Bennett.
there is music, food, shopping, and amusement park. Navy Pier right now is Chicago's most visited tourist attraction, with over 3 million people visiting this every year. And 2 original parts of the pier still exist as you come about. The building at the very end of the pier here with the green vaulted roof and the 2 white towers on it, just behind you guys in the front here, that is the original ballroom and convention center. And that's original. That was a happening place to go for big band dancing back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And the original gate, which is left to the Ferris wheel. You'll see a little tower there with a little green conical roof. Those are the 2 original parts. Everyone, we just got the yellow light here, which allows us to go into the lock, the Chicago River locks. We're going to be here a few moments while the water equalizes between the lake and the river. And I do want to let you know that the Chicago lock here is the last lock on the St. Lawrence Seaway system. If you were to enter this country on the East Coast and go through all the lakes and rivers and locks between here and there, this is the final one. And this was built by the Army Corps of Engineers between 1936 and 1939. It is a federal installation. It's not owned by the city, state, or county. So we'll be here in a few moments while the water equalizes between the river and the lake. And when we get to the other side, we're just getting started here. We're going to chat a little bit about our current firefighting fleet. They're tied up on the left side, or the port side of the vessel on the other side of that west gate. We'll have a few words about them. We'll start talking about the architecture here and some of the history. And also the fact that the Chicago River flows in the opposite direction that nature intended. Originally it flowed west to east out into the lake, but in the year 1900 the city got together with the Army Corps of Engineers, same group that built the lock here, and they came up with an audacious plan to save the drinking water here. And they reversed the course of the river. It now flows east to west. And I'm going to tell you how they did that and that whole story when that west gate opens again. But for right now, everyone, I'm going to sign off in a second here, give this back to Captain Ray. If you have any questions, once again, my name is Cliff. I will be here. I am at your service. Any questions, comments? We will carry on again when that west gate opens. So enjoy the tour, everyone. I'll be back shortly. Captain Ray, it's yours.
and you guys, if you want to take a photo before you leave the boat, helmet on, and all that stuff, just let me know as we get back to the dock, and I'll let the captain know.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Oh, this one, don't worry about this one.
Okay. Okay, let's go then.
Step in.
No, we're just waiting for the lock.
Oh, I see.